Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee here, meteorologistjoechaffee.com, weatherlongisland.com, nycweathernow.com, and also ssstormchasers.com. And I imagine SS Storm Chasers will be busy with Hurricane Matthew once it approaches the southeast coast of the United States. But let's first off look at the latest water vapor imagery. The pressure in the hurricane has dropped about 6 or 7 millibars down to 934 millibars as of about midnight. And you can see the eye is moving on a course just east of due north. And on this track, it's going to go right over the south coast of Haiti during Tuesday morning. It's well defined, very symmetrical. Wouldn't be at all surprised if the pressure falls a little bit more. Now, there will be some interaction beginning with the mountainous island of Hispaniola that might do something that we're going to keep an eye on in terms of how it maintains this strength with top winds of 145 miles an hour. Now here's the wider view, and you can see the expansion here on the water vapor imagery and just a huge tropical envelope of moisture that exists throughout the environment of where the hurricane is, of course, and also up to the north. You can pick out that trough that's in the Gulf of Mexico with these clouds that are moving south-southwest to north-northeast. So everything is on schedule in terms of how it's tracking with that into that weakness. Now, just want to point out again, there is another tropical system that is outside the sphere of influence of Matthew for the time being, and that is this system here. And that seems to be developing too. The Hurricane Center rating that 60% chance of becoming a tropical cyclone in the next 2 to 5 days. Now, the thing is that conditions right now may be somewhat conducive for development, but eventually the circulation of Matthew is likely to overpower this and absorb it. I mean, I think that would be the logical thing that would happen over time there. Otherwise, we'd have to start to think what kind of impact this might have on Matthew in the track. But it appears the models seem to agree on the idea that this would, if it were to be a separate entity for a while, that eventually the circulation of Matthew would just completely overpower it and absorb it. Now, we're going to run you through the weather models. First, we'll start with the view of the Western Atlantic, and you can see the southeast coast. And here is Matthew, south of Haiti. Moves right over that westernmost tip of the southern part of Haiti, and then starts a turn to the north-northwest over eastern Cuba, and then northwest through all of the Bahamas. And this is where it begins to start hooking even a little bit more northwesterly. If it's north-northwest, then it may turn more northwest with time. And on this particular new run of the GFS, the center gets very, very close to the Florida coast. It would be north of Miami, probably from the central part of the Florida coast northward, and it eventually passes just east of Jacksonville, and from there it moves inland near Charleston, South Carolina. More than likely, at least as I'm going to think that it would possibly be a Category 3 hurricane when it does so, or a strong 2, depending on what happens when it gets into the Bahamas. Conditions there should be conducive for strengthening, so it's very possible that this could come in as a Category 3. Now, from here, with a track just inland of the coast, it passes west of Cape Hatteras and west of the Outer Banks. Now, this is going to be important in terms of the overall strength, because it is likely to weaken with that track just inland as a tropical system. But you begin to see this rainfall that develops up to the north, and this is the influence of that upper trough that's coming east. And I think that what's going to happen is, as it emerges off the North Carolina coast just east of Virginia Beach and southeast of southernmost Delmarva, that it begins that transition over to a post-tropical system. And it really does have the look of a nor'easter here, as that low center winds up going east of Cape May and south of Long Island and then just east of Cape Cod, and this is by Sunday afternoon. So if the GFS is correct, what I would expect is that this is Saturday morning, so we could have deteriorating conditions from over New Jersey and into Long Island and southern New England and southern parts of New York State, with rain moving in during Saturday afternoon and evening, and then the worst of it would be Saturday night into Sunday morning. This is Sunday morning, 8 a.m., and by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, weather conditions will have improved across much of New Jersey, and then begin to improve later in the afternoon across areas east of New York City and through Connecticut and beyond, so that by evening the system is racing northeastward, passing west of Nova Scotia and eventually passing west of Newfoundland. So this is going to be a very interesting system to see how it all plays out over the next several days. I want to check to see really quickly if the UKMET, the new UKMET model run is in, because and it is, which is great. So let's see how far along it is, because this model has been leading the charge of a track further to the west. So we'll take a look and see how far along it is. It's in. Let me we'll click through it. I'll jump to 72 hours, and you can see Matthew there on the 72 hour on the UKMET is actually even further west than the GFS. It looks like the center of the hurricane is just northwest of Miami, and from there it is riding the coast as a weakening system at 120 hours. We have it. The time frame on this would be, let's see. This is valid for Sunday. This is Saturday evening at 8 o'clock. It's west of the GFS, and I do not have the next two panels, which is the two panels we want to see. But I'm imagining that with this trough still back in the Great Lakes, that it would take the low center barely offshore. Now, the thing is, if it rides this all the way inland, you're going to have a weaker system, and more than likely it would probably weaken to a tropical storm. And the big positive from that would be the fact that we would probably get a substantial amount of drought-breaking rains from New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania throughout much of southern and central New England. So that's an important plus to consider, because of the serious drought that this area is in. Now, if the UKMET is correct, there would be more of a southeast wind here across across New Jersey and Long Island, which would put a coastal flooding risk in a stronger coastal flooding risk at play. But on the opposite side of this weekend is a quarter moon, so we will be on the low end of a high tide cycle. So that will at least play somewhat in the favor with regards to coastal flooding. I would caution that we really need to get to this point later in the week to really figure out the specifics in terms of what these different tracks would mean, because we do know that a straight offshore track up the coast and moving inland from off the ocean would be probably the most worrisome track and the most dangerous track with regards to what could happen for the New Jersey shore and for the coast of southern New England. But the offshore track, much in a way, if you want to use the Sandy comparison, which came in from the east, the offshore track appears to be now it's completely off the table, really, judging from what these models are showing. And it's a question of whether we get a track that's right along or just off or just inland of the coast that eventually merges out. And again, I think it will become eventually just transition over to some sort of post-tropical system, or if it winds up being inland of the coast where the tropical structure weakens, and then you get some intensification from the upper trough that's coming in from the north, but it's something that we wind up being able to, for the most part, manage. So these options they're all on the table at this point. We will, of course, examine all of this. We still have to wait to see what the European run does, because that is actually now maybe the last man standing with regards to wanting to keep this trough very weak and very fast and progressive and take the storm, even though it's come much further left now than it has than any time in the last number of days, and is not too far off with regards to the positions compared to the other models from North Carolina southward. There's a big difference in the earlier European run with regards to what happens up north of North Carolina, because the European would kick it out to the northeast. We don't have the new European run. That'll come during the overnight, and we'll examine that in the morning. So don't forget, check out all the latest developments with Hurricane Matthew and local weather, of course, for the New Jersey, New York City, Hudson Valley, Long Island, and southern New England and eastern Pennsylvania area on meteorologistjoechaffee.com, weatherlongisland.com, and nycweathernow.com, and of course SS Storm Chasers, because they're going to be very busy with this hurricane moving up the East Coast.